Oh, hi there. Welcome to the Cool Review. Welcome to the Full Review. You know, as I was making this here half-eaten sandwich, I started developing a craving to play the Sonic Adventure games again. Well, no, that's actually not true. I actually just needed this so I could do this segment here. Get to the end of this joke, you see. So without further ado, let's get into the meat of this review.
Sonic the Hedgehog, the iconic gaming mascot created to rival Nintendo's legendary Mario back in 1991. He's really, gone places, both good and bad, of course. And while I can't sing constant praises for the franchise, I am really endeared to the Blue Blur and his high-speed shenanigans. He is truly the definition of cool, and will always be one of my favorite video game characters of all time.
I remember playing Sonic the Hedgehog when I was a kid. The 1991 game, not,
This. When I was a child, I believe it was at my mother's friend's place. At the time, I had no idea what I was playing, but I couldn't stop myself from playing. There was something about the flow, the speed of Sonic's movements that really got me going. And, as I grew older, I started playing what many would consider the best Sonic game ever made, Sonic Adventure 2.
So, while this review isn't actually about Sonic Adventure 2, I figured it was important to bring it up. I mean, it's one of my favorite 3D Sonic games of all time. And, well, unlike with Sonic Adventure 1, I actually have a lot of nostalgic bias for it, because I've spent so much time playing its many levels and enjoying the many thrills of it.
I was so invested with SA2 for such a long time, despite never playing its predecessor until this very year. I had looked around at it a bit, considered buying it on the Xbox store multiple times, but never did, until Christmas of 2017, where I finally purchased the game on Steam, the version which I will be reviewing.
I completed this game once before. Got 128 emblems fair and square. Minus the last two, but more on that later. So, having played the game again, what do I think about the Blue Blur's first jump into the third dimension? Let's find out in the Sonic Adventure Marathon.
So, in 1998, SEGA,
the company who publishes Sonic games for those who don't know,
created Sonic Adventure to rival Nintendo's incredibly popular Super Mario 64. Directed by Takashi Iizuka and produced by Yuji Naka, the latter being one of the original coders of the classic Sonic series and the ex-head of Sonic Team, believe it or not, Sonic Adventure would, at the time, be hailed as one of the best Sonic games ever made. It brought new life into the Sonic formula. It made everything much more grand and expansive. It made Sonic's eyes green! Gone were the chubby belly and the Mickey Mouse-like design. We were going full-on 90s cool in this bitch, and it worked like a charm.
I personally really like Sonic's design here. It really shows the attitude of which he possessed. I mean, look at him. Look at these green eyes, that sparkling white smile, those kick-ass shoes, and whatever the fuck this pose is. Like, how the fuck do you do that? What is this
The various elements, such as the rule of cool design and relatively expansive levels, alongside a kick-ass soundtrack, really attracted people to this game, and it inevitably became a bestseller on the Dreamcast. However, as the years went by and the Dreamcast eventually flopped due to the PlayStation 2's rise in immense popularity, SEGA would sadly become a third-party publisher. This led to the creation of the GameCube remakes of Sonic Adventures 1 and 2, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and Sonic Adventure DX, respectively, both of which would be ported to the Xbox 360, PS3, and finally, Steam.
Now that it's Sonic Adventure's 20th anniversary, let's see if it's aged well, like a fine wine, or if it's fucking degraded like a fucking rotten corpse.
Let's start with the plot. I'll be cutting around a bit, because you play the game with 6 different characters, meaning that you get 6 different perspectives to see throughout the entire game, along with a final story segment at the end. If you don't like spoilers, I recommend pressing the time skip on the screen now. I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to do so. 3, 2, 1, action! We start off at Angel Island. Knuckles is sleeping on the job until suddenly the Master Emerald shatters, releasing an ominous aquatic entity. Knuckles yells at it because that's exactly what you do when water rises right in front of you. And of course, the entity gets bored and rips off to who knows where, leaving Knuckles confused. He then realizes that since the Master Emerald is broken worse than your mom's favorite glass cup, Angel Island will cease to float in the air. The island then hits the ground, causing a massive tsunami which kills absolutely nobody! Okay, let's get serious for a second here. You're telling me that this massive collision with the ocean, which releases an intense amount of force, doesn't cause any casualties? I only ask because then we see a big cat, surprisingly named Big, chilling at his house in the nearby jungle with his pet frog. Froggy. Froggy suddenly grows a tail and swallows Big's Chaos Emerald before hoofing off, leaving the dumbass cat to his own devices.
Come out, wherever you are.
Meanwhile, in Station Square, the police are chasing the aquatic entity from before, even shooting it with bullets until they realize that shooting water is pointless. Then, BAM! Sonic appears and skirmishes with the creature, defeating it. It sinks into the nearby sewer pipe, and Sonic is left befuddled as to what is going on. Little does he know that he's being watched by the evil Dr. Eggman. Eggman! Who reveals to us that the being's name is Chaos, and that he is in control of it. The next day, Sonic's just chilling, enjoying his vacation. I doubt he needs one. I kinda just assumed that he was homeless and unemployed. So Sonic is just chilling when Tails suddenly crashes his plane at the nearby beach. Sonic goes to his rescue and Tails reveals that he was testing a prototype for his new plane, powered by a nigh unlimited energy source, a Chaos Emerald. Sonic and Tails decide to head back to Tails' workshop in the Mystic Ruins when out of nowhere, Dr. Eggman appears to snag the Chaos Emerald. After a quick fight with the Egg Hornet, Sonic and Tails emerge victorious. Or so they thought, before the clumsy Tails forgot that he was holding his emerald right in front of the nefarious Doctor's impressive staff. Good going there, pal. He summons Chaos to his side and proceeds to give it the Chaos Emerald, turning it into Chaos 1. He then flash grenades both himself and Chaos out of there, and our heroes decide to track down the other emeralds before Eggman can snatch them for his evil plan to destroy Station Square and build his ultimate empire, Robotnik Land.
Where I will rule it all.
At this time, Knuckles proceeds to track down the Master Emerald shards in Speed Highway, while Big searches Twinkle Park for Froggy. Unluckily for Big, Froggy slips out of his hands and winds up back in the Mystic Ruins, specifically Ice Cap from Sonic 3. At the same time, Sonic and Tails gather the Chaos Emeralds from both Windy Valley in the Ruins and Casinopolis in Station Square. But, just as they think they're safe, Dr. Eggman jumps them and manages to snag another Chaos Emerald from our heroes before putting them to sleep with gas. Eggman is pretty metal in this game, not gonna lie. He really wants to build this Robotnik land place, and he is willing to go pretty far to get it. It's actually somewhat terrifying. It actually makes him look like, you know, a threat. But believe me when I say, this isn't the farthest he's gonna go in this marathon. No sirree. Returning to Knuckles, he gets his shards from Casinoopolis, looking outside to find the sleeping duo. He then enters the hotel where he sees Dr. Eggman entering a suspicious room, and proceeds to give chase. Knuckles finds that Eggman is working with Chaos, and decides to get a slice of revenge pie for what the creature did to his emeralds! After KOing Chaos, Knuckles is tricked by Eggman into believing that Sonic is after the Emerald Shards as well, which makes Knuckles question everything he knows. Except that's bullshit, Knuckles! You've been tricked by this bastard before and... Ugh! I give up on you. Sonic and Tails wake up and make haste to Ice Cap to find the final Chaos Emerald to put a stop to Eggman's nefarious schemes. But after doing so, they are confronted by Knuckles. Knuckles and our heroes fight, until a collision causes the 2 Chaos Emeralds in their possession to fly out, and right into Eggman's hands. Eggman reveals that he has fooled Knuckles, which causes Sonic to give the same disappointed reaction I did earlier, followed by Knuckles attempting to deny it / shift the blame to Sonic. Yeah, good going, asshole. Eggman then gives the 2 emeralds to Chaos, turning it into Chaos form, leading to a fight between it, Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails. After Chaos is defeated, yet again, Eggman reveals his airship, the Egg Carrier, to our heroes, and proceeds to flee to it. Sonic and Tails decide to go after Eggman in the Tornado, Sonic's personal plane, while Knuckles goes off to do more sharding. Sonic and Tails' plan fails, and the Tornado is shot down by the Egg Carrier, leaving our heroes separated. Back in Station Square, Amy Rose, from Sonic CD, is seen getting her groceries whilst reminiscing about the days when she used to hang out with Sonic, when out of the sky appears the Egg Carrier, and then a bird, a plane. Actually, it is just a bird, which crashes right into Amy's face. Amy consoles the bird until a robot, known as Zero, no, not that one, appears and begins chasing the pair. Amy loses the robot by sneaking into a nearby burger joint. Deciding then and there to protect the bird at all costs, she begins wandering down the street until she finds the crashed Sonic wandering as well.
Oh, Sonic!
Amy, knowing Sonic is a hero, approaches him to be the bird's bodyguard. With Sonic being less than enthused about the idea, Amy decides to come along with him anyways, because you don't tell this bitch what to do, which leads to them traveling to the main portion of Station Square, where Zero appears yet again. Sonic prepares to land the final blow on the mechanical menace, until Amy suddenly gasps and squeals excitedly.
It says cute couples can get in free!
Amy runs into Twinkle Park, with Sonic giving chase. After going through the psychedelic amusement park, Amy and the bird get caught by Zero, with Sonic now having to make haste to rescue her. Big, meanwhile, tracks down Froggy back to Station Square after losing him again in Ice Cap. This results in Big heading to Emerald Coast, where he finally retrieves Froggy. But, out of the blue, an ominous robot snatches the tailed frog right out of Big's surprisingly weak grasp. This robot is E102 Gamma, and, in my opinion, he is by far the most interesting story of the entire cast. Yes, including Sonic, in the Sonic video game. Sad. Created by Dr. Eggman to serve as one of his egg carrier crew, Gamma is trained to kill Sonic and company. After a fight between him and his brother, E101 Beta, Gamma emerges the victor. This causes Eggman to mock the latter, and consider him to be inferior. But he still allows both of them to be aboard the carrier, with Beta being considered as spare parts. That's fucked up. Once aboard the egg carrier, Gamma and his fellow robot siblings are sent to retrieve Froggy, as he has a Chaos Emerald that I mentioned earlier, along with a piece of Chaos himself, specifically his tail, possessing him. This results in the scene where Gamma kidnaps Froggy with Big chasing them down to the egg carrier. After Gamma returns Froggy to Eggman, the Mad Doctor insults the rest of the crew for being so incompetent, before sending them to God knows where, slightly traumatizing Gamma. He then sends Gamma to retrieve Amy's bird friend in the prison, but Gamma makes a wrong turn and winds up finding his older brother, Beta, being rebuilt, with various sharp tools and drills going into his body. This imagery horrifies Gamma, as he simply says Beta's name before leaving the room. Gamma then heads to the prison to get the bird, and meets Amy Rose. Amy Rose questions him as to why he wants the bird in the first place, to which Gamma cannot give a proper response. Amy feels pity for the machine, due to the fact that it does not have emotions and cannot even understand that what it's doing is wrong. Suddenly, the bird flies in front of Gamma, causing him to have a flashback of being one of the two birds who was parents of it. This causes Gamma to release the two, and he tells them to escape through the hot shelter. Amy does just that, and Gamma heads down to the bridge to deal with a threat. That threat being Sonic, who hunted the egg carrier down to Red Mountain, ultimately flying in with Tails. For the entire duration of these past events, Tails has been trying to gather a Chaos Emerald to make his Tornado Mark II a reality. After chasing down Froggy, who took the emerald, and encountering Big, Tails meets up with Sonic at Red Mountain and gives him to lift to the egg carrier. Once there, Eggman reveals that the egg carrier has a second form, making the trip to saving Amy more dangerous and time-consuming. Especially time-consuming. Anyways, Sonic and Tails head through the Sky Deck. Arguably the worst level in the entire game, not even gonna fucking lie here. And they change the ship's form back. At the same time, Knuckles finally arrives after placing all of his current shards into the Emerald. Then, he follows Gamma into the carrier, and proceeds to collect the last 3 shards that are in the Sky Deck. Back to Sonic and Tails, they wind up fighting against Gamma, who is defeated by our heroes. But before they can land the final blow, Sonic and Tails are stopped by Amy, who explains that Gamma is actually the one who rescued her, and that he is unlike the other robots. The egg carrier then proceeds to...
Egg carrier's losing altitude!
Due to all of the damage done to the ship in the time that the protagonists have been there, with Sonic giving chase for Eggman, Tails and Amy flying off the ship together, and Gamma flying off on his own. Big again catches Froggy in the hot shelter, and prepares to flee the carrier before being intercepted by Eggman and Chaos. Chaos reabsorbs his tail from Froggy, and takes the Chaos Emerald, turning into Chaos 6. Sonic then arrives and helps Big save Froggy, in a very pitiful excuse for a boss fight. Ugh, why is this even here? Big and Froggy escape on the Tornado 2, and might I add, Big has no experience with flying planes, yet he somehow manages to make his way back home using the Tornado. I am actually impressed. Maybe you aren't the dumbass I thought you were.
Don't run away. What you doing under that car?
Never mind.
What's wrong?
Sonic then proceeds to fight Chaos by throwing these little ice things into his gut before smashing it with a well-timed homing attack. After all is said and done, Eggman flies away, and Sonic decides to head to his base in the Mystic Ruins, but not before getting lost in Lost World. No, not the game. It's the name of the level. Knuckles, meanwhile, prepares to exit the carrier himself, but not before Chaos 6 comes back to give him a fight. After somewhat repeating Sonic's strategy and ass-raping Chaos with the maximum heat Knuckles attack... That sounds like the name of a bad porno movie about fisting. Anyways, Knuckles beats Chaos and heads back to Angel Island. Tails and Amy land safely in Station Square, where Tails finds that Eggman has crashed and is planning on launching a missile straight into Station Square. Holy shit! Luckily, the missile turns out to be a dud, and Tails and Eggman race to get to it first. Tails ultimately succeeds, angering Eggman so much that he summons a giant mech named the Egg Walker. After giving it much-deserved tail slaps, Tails defeats the Mega Machine, saving Station Square.
You saved the day!
At the same time, Amy decides to look for the bird's family, heading to Eggman's base, Final Egg, to find them. She winds up being chased by Zero yet again, and narrowly escapes it before realizing the bird's family can't be in there, but in the egg carrier. Gamma, meanwhile, lands in the Mystic Ruins, and after having a massive change in heart, didn't think he had one considering that he's a robot, but anyway, he decides that Eggman is his enemy, and that he needs to save his E100 series family. By doing what, you may ask? By obliterating them, releasing the animal inside. He tracks down 2 members in the ruins, E103 Delta and E104 Epsilon, and destroys them. Realizing that he can't find the other remaining E-Series robots in the area, he heads to the sunken egg carrier to chase down the remaining two. After a long trek through the hot shelter, Gamma destroys E-105 Zeta, and proceeds to head back onto the egg carrier's deck. After coming to terms with the fact that he will have to destroy himself to accomplish his mission, he sees his older brother, Beta, now redesigned and incredibly pissed. And with that, he decides that he must lay his brother to rest. After an incredible battle between these two brothers, Gamma ultimately wins, but not before Beta does a suicide shot right into Gamma's hull. The bird within Beta, which turns out to be the father of Amy's bird, thanks Gamma for setting him free. Gamma then has another flashback to the time spent being the mother of the bird, and finally self-destructs to let the animal inside of him free. The best part of the story is this scene right here. There is no dialogue, just silence. Gamma is, from what I can tell, the only character in the Sonic series to permanently die. I know he technically appears in Sonic Battle, the Game Boy Advance game, but that doesn't really count because that's not the real Gamma. It's a pretty deep moment here, and it's kind of sad for the fact that this is basically unrelated to the main plot with Chaos and the Emeralds. Yet, it's the best storyline in this entire game. It really goes to show that even a few polygons can still bring the feels, despite being 20 years old. Anyways, back to the story. Amy heads to the egg carrier and finds the two parents of the bird there. Reunited at last, the birds prepare to fly away before Zero appears yet again and injures Amy's bird. Amy, enraged at the robot for doing something so heartless, proceeds to bash Zero into oblivion. How's that for a badass female protagonist? After doing so, the birds fly away, and Amy returns to her life in Station Square. Now we're here, folks. The final battle between Sonic and the nefarious Eggman. Sonic chases Eggman into the final egg base, and after making it through his gauntlet of precision platforming and explosive robots, finally tracks him down. The two have an epic battle, with Eggman using his new mech, the Egg Viper, to bring the pain to Sonic. After losing to him, and failing to connect his suicide attack, Eggman goes missing, and Sonic meets up with Tails as they head off into the sunset. Knuckles puts the rest of the Master Emerald together, raising Angel Island to the skies once more, while Big and Froggy spend time together, reunited at last. It would seem that this is a happy ending, but as it turns out, we still have a last story section to cover, so buckle yourselves in. Eggman discovers for himself that Chaos is alive, and the enraged beast turns traitor and attacks him. This causes Angel Island to crash down yet again, bringing with it a very confused Knuckles, who winds up finding the Mad Doctor collapsed on his island. He's about to ask Eggman what happened to him before Chaos knocks him out as well. Back in the Mystic Ruins, Sonic is on a snooze cruise and questioning where he should take his next vacation, before Tails alerts him to the fact that Angel Island has fallen again. Our heroes make haste to the sunken island, and find both Eggman and Knuckles collapsed. Sonic and Tails ask what happened, and Knuckles reveals that Chaos came, beat the two of them, and stole all of the Chaos Emeralds that Knuckles had in his possession. Eggman proceeds to fly off, pissed that Chaos has gone rogue, leaving Sonic and company to chase after the last Emerald inside of the Tornado Mark II.
We'll get on it.
But before he can do that, Sonic is put into a trance. I've kind of been skimming over these so far. At many points in the game, the glowing red light that can help you find where you need to go sends you into these flashbacks. They give us some backstory as to what Chaos is, that the mysterious light is actually the being that sealed Chaos into the Master Emerald eons ago, and a kidna named Tikal. This happened due to the fact that Tikal's tribe wished to have complete control over the territories they resided in, and wished to use the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald to do so. Tikal attempted to convince her father, the chief of the Echidna tribe, not to do this, but his mind was so corrupted by greed that when the time came, he was willing to both harm his own daughter and slaughter Chao just to do exactly that. This enraged Chaos, who was the guardian of the Chao and the Emeralds at the time, and using the power of the Chaos Emeralds, killed the Echidna tribe and almost destroyed the world in the process. This was before Tikal, using an ancient ritual taught to her by her grandmother, sealed both Chaos and herself into the Master Emerald for millennia. this story is cool and all, and really gives a lot of insight into Knuckles' past, but there is one major issue with it. These little flashback scenes happen with every single character, which feels more important for the perspective of the player compared to the character going through them. I mean, what the hell do Big or Gamma have anything to do with Tikal or Chaos' storyline? Why is Tikal bringing them here? It's not like Big and Gamma know what echidnas even are, or what Chaos is, bar that one boss fight. It just seems pointless to make every character have these Tikal tidbits. And, in my opinion, there are only 3 characters which should have these anyway. Those being Sonic, due to being the main character and having the most interactions with Chaos, Tails, because his story mostly intertwines with Sonic's, and Knuckles for some much-needed backstory about his tribe. Again, I get that these flashbacks were placed here mostly for the convenience of the player, but it still feels out of place, especially in stories where the characters have minimal connections to them. Now, cutting back to the story, Sonic wakes up from his trance thanks to Tail giving some of the greatest line delivery in gaming history.
Good thing you're okay.
Yeah, thanks for that. Tails then informs Sonic that Knuckles has already left, and the two head to Big's house to get the final emerald. But, just as they arrive, Chaos manages to snag it right then and there. Meanwhile, in Station Square, the people are just walking down the streets, minding their business. But then, the sewers begin to flood over, shooting water out. The citizens flee, and goddamn do they flee. I mean, there's nobody even here, Jesus Christ. Water splashes through the collapsed buildings, revealing perfect chaos, completely enraged and with godlike power to boot. Tikal then reveals herself to Sonic, and tells him that Chaos must be sealed in the Master Emerald. Sonic realizes that this won't change how Chaos feels inside, and that maybe there's a way to get through to it. The Chaos Emeralds are then used by Chaos, who absorbs all of the negative energy. This, however, allows Sonic, with the help of the rest of our heroes and the citizens of Station Square,
Sonic! Yeah, Sonic!
to use the positive energy to become Super Sonic. Super Sonic then flies straight into Chaos several times, eventually defeating the monster and neutralizing its anger thanks to the positive energy of his form. The day is saved, Tikal reveals that the Chow are still alive, and both her and Chaos return to the Master Emerald. Tails remarks that all's well that ends well, while Sonic jumps away towards his next adventure. Roll credits. I have to say, this story is certainly deeper than the classic series games, and I find it to be a rather enjoyable story to follow. Excluding Big Story because it's probably the most irrelevant one, most of the plot lines are interesting enough for me to get invested. The scales feel incredibly high in Sonic Adventure, unlike in a lot of Mario games. I mean, the world itself is at risk, and that speaks volumes. Now, while I'll admit that dark storylines in the Sonic franchise aren't always a good thing, I think this one is balanced well enough between cheesy and serious to be an enjoyable thrill ride from start to finish. Not all is good, however. Like I stated earlier, the Tikal stuff can be pretty irrelevant based on who you're playing as, and while I like it for giving some backstory to Knuckles so that we find that he isn't just the only echidna to exist, these scenes tend to take up a lot of time that would be better spent actually playing the game. Still, I feel that this story is one of the more balanced of the franchise as a whole. Everything is relatively cohesive despite the 6-character split perspective. It's a decent story, which, for the Sonic franchise, is a very good thing.
Well, this is a game, right? So, has the game aged as well as the story?
Well, to answer the question, it's both yes and no. You play as the 6 characters I mentioned earlier, though you start out solely with Sonic, and unlock the others by meeting them during the story. To summarize quickly before getting in depth about the specific gameplay styles, Sonic is all about high-speed action and platforming, as you would come to expect from a Sonic game. Tails is about racing to the finish before Sonic or Eggman. Knuckles' gameplay involves hunting for the missing emerald shards. Amy runs away from Zero while doing some Mario-esque platforming. Big fishes, and Gamma uses targeting systems to wipe out enemies to reach the E100 robot at the end of each level to destroy them. Now into the thick of this. Sonic himself is probably my least favorite character to play as, excluding Big because his levels just fucking suck in general. He moves way too fast in this game, and while I get that he is the king of speed, Knight of the Wind, so to speak, he constantly winds up colliding with walls, and at many times during my first playthrough of this game, flying off the edge of platforms due to going too fast. These levels attempt to make up for it by being some of the most expansive levels in Sonic history, second only to... But in the end, Sonic's speed ruins a lot of the fun I had with this story. It's borderline uncontrollable, and even though I said the levels attempt to make up for this, that doesn't count for every level. Let's talk about Skydeck and Lost World for a minute here. Arguably the two worst levels in the entire game. Skydeck is a level devoted to changes in gravitational pull, and having your ass constantly pounded by lasers. Sonic Speed doesn't really work here, as there are too many goddamn obstacles that can stop him dead in his tracks, like this fucking segment here with the planes. I hate this segment. Running and jumping with Sonic here is a goddamn misery because of how quickly the platforms sink off of the ship. And on one occasion, I got fucking stuck in one of the plane drop-off points. Like, how the fuck does that happen? His speed is used against him in this stage, as the constant threat of bottomless pits can prove to be an intense issue when dealing with a character with the speed of a fucking jet plane. Oh, but don't get me started on Lost World. Holy hell, who makes a puzzle level for a character who moves this fast? In Lost World, there are multiple puzzles you must complete to reach the end of the temple. From this snake puzzle with the buttons that takes way too goddamn long, especially if you're speedrunning this level for the emblem, and these fucking anti-gravity pads that constantly fuck you over because Sonic is so fast he can just fly off. That's not even getting into this boulder that can fucking glitch itself forward and hit you on its own accord, sending you into a bottomless pit with no fault of your own. It just doesn't make sense. Why would you make a puzzle level for a character whose speed makes completing these puzzles all the more frustrating? I mean, why would you do that? Now, I will admit that while I don't enjoy playing Sonic that much, and those two levels in particular, there is a certain sense of thrill that comes with playing as him. Like being chased by orca whales in Emerald Coast to running down a building in Speed Highway. It's things like that that are crammed all throughout Sonic's levels, and it's this coolness factor that I am certain reeled in a lot of fans for this game. SEGA knew how to work the rule of cool back in the 90s, and it still works today, at least in Sonic Adventure's case. Now on to Tails. Tails' levels are essentially speedrunning levels. Reach the end before the computer. This is by far my favorite level type in the entire game. Wanna know why? Because I can get a sense of going fast, but still feel in control of my speed when I play. Tails, having the natural ability to fly, has been expanded on greatly in this game. I love his speed while flying. It's the perfect amount of speed necessary to be both reasonable and exhilarating. And I love how short his levels tend to be. They're usually consisting of the best parts from Sonic's version of the level, like snowboarding in Ice Cap, or the way down from the sky in Windy Valley. And within the levels themselves, there are these green speed hoops that allow Tails to travel a great distance in a short amount of time. I mean, what else can I say? It feels awesome to be flying fast and free in the great blue sky. On to Knuckles' gameplay, another favorite of mine, which consists of shard hunting. Using the radar on the bottom of the screen and help from Tikal, though I didn't wind up using her in this run, Knuckles can track down any 3 of the shards in a single level at any one time. This allows for very quick level design, and thanks to the compact yet open nature of Knuckles' stages, it won't take long to track down the shards. What I like about these levels are the quickness in which they can be completed. Most of them can be finished in a minute, if not less, which allows for quick and consistently good gameplay. It's not the best by any means, but it certainly beats SA2's version of it. More on that in the next review. Now, Amy is probably the most unoriginal of the cast. Her levels are essentially Mario, She can use her Pico Pico hammer to harm enemies and perform a quick jump at max speed, which gives her a great degree of distance when she moves. She, along with Big and Gamma, are the only characters who have a level in the Hot Shelter, the interior of the egg carrier. Her levels are rather simple and relatively short, with the exception of the Hot Shelter, which feels like it goes on way too long. Especially with this color matching part here. It's mostly harmless, in my opinion, but it's definitely not an aspect of the game that I give a lot of praise towards. However, if they removed Amy, I feel like the game wouldn't be much different, since her levels aren't really that interesting. But if you want to talk about something that isn't harmless, there is nothing worse than Big the fucking Cat. Jesus! This dude is a goddamn moron. Now, while I ironically love the character, his levels and gameplays are absolutely inexcusable, and they are absolute trash, and everyone knows it. Fishing. Fucking fishing. I didn't like fishing in real life, and I don't like it here either. Now, while his levels can be done relatively quick if you know where to look for Froggy, without prior knowledge of the slippery amphibian's location, you will be lost, angry, and confused during these levels. I heavily recommend using a guide for this one, specifically an ice cap. It can get pretty daunting. I'd rather not talk a lot about Big, since many of the critiques brought up tend to be repeats of other people's, so I'll just say that fishing in a Sonic game is the worst idea ever made, and move on to Gamma. Gamma's levels are mech levels. You shoot at enemies to increase your time. Now, why the time is going down, I don't know. Maybe it's a self-destruct? Is that too dark? Anyway, Gamma's levels are especially fun to speedrun through, though I do know a lot of people don't care much for his gameplay. But I genuinely like the feeling of being a cool robot badass that can kill things in seconds while running to my target. Though, I will admit, with the exception of E105 Zeta and the rematch with Beta, none of the fights with the E100 units are challenging in the slightest and can quickly end with a nice press of the action button. Now, in between each level, you will be placed in one of the 3 hub worlds, Station Square, the Mystic Ruins, and the Egg Carrier. None of these areas are particularly interesting, except for this NPC here, who tells me not to get upset about the shitty camera. Well, bad news for you, little girl. I am upset. This is a problem with every character. The camera angles are automatic, which can cause a lot of stilted jumps if you're trying to platform in the opposite direction. This is particularly noticeable during Sonic stages, but it can be a pain in the ass regardless of who you play with. And this NPC is trying to excuse it as something I shouldn't be upset about is insulting. No, Sonic Team. Just because you programmed a shitty camera doesn't mean you get to excuse its shittiness. For example, let's bring up the boss battles. While most of them are pretty fun to fight, the Egg Hornet and Chaos 6 being favorites of mine, the camera is always focused on the boss. This makes seeing the area around you incredibly difficult, and you could be missing important things like rings that can keep you alive. Not only that, but many boss fights are repeated, like the Chaos 4 fight, which you play 3 times, in 3 separate stories. It's a minor thing, sure, but these minor things add up and can sometimes make playing this game incredibly frustrating. Let's not even bring up the rival battles, which are essentially boss battles except 10 times easier, and in the case of Knuckles' voice acting, incredibly hilarious.
Oh no.
After every level you play, you unlock these things called emblems. Once you collect all 130, you can play as Metal Sonic. Basically, it's just a reskinned Sonic, but still, using Metal Sonic can be very fun and is a well-deserved reward. You know what isn't fun? Getting these godforsaken things. Now, while you'll get a good chunk of the medals through simply playing the game, a good portion of them are earned from doing levels with a different criteria. This can range from collecting 50 rings before getting to the end, or speedrunning so goddamn fast even Jesus himself can't comprehend it. It can be. No, it is incredibly stress-inducing to do these, which is why I recommend doing them in trial mode. This way, you don't have to keep going into the location every single time you get a game over in adventure mode. And trust me, you will fail, because you need to be precision perfect in order to properly beat the clock. Times can range from 5 minutes to less than 1, and this is with 3 characters in the game. With Gamma, it's the opposite, have more time, which can be equally annoying despite my liking of his levels. Bigs are probably the most simple, which is that you simply need to catch a heavy enough fish before catching Froggy. Though I do remember counting one time where that lasted about 45 minutes, so maybe I'm just going fucking crazy. The only character who I'm considered doing these challenges for is Tails. His are simply the same thing as before, but with slightly faster computer racers. That's it. But oh man, if you thought the action stages were the most annoying, I haven't even brought up the mandatory minigames! Yep, that's right. If you want to get a taste of that Metal Sonic, you need to beat these minigames. Now, this kart game from Twinkle Park isn't so bad. I still have no idea how to play it, but winning is easy, so who cares? I'm talking about the Sky Chase minigames. It's bad enough that you have to play this not twice, but 4 times in the entire game. No, you have to complete it with a high enough score in order to get the fucking medal, and it sucks and I hate it immensely. The control sucks, it feels too fucking long, and you have to do precise things to make the score above the required points to get the medal, and fuck me, this is just fucking redundant! Ugh, I'm sorry for bursting like that, but you've got to understand, making mini-games mandatory to get a completion bonus is like locking a piece of delicious apple pie behind a fucking bank safe with a security camera and laser beams! It's unnecessary padding that removes all of the fun I currently had with the game and makes me more agitated that I have to go through all these extra loops just to get something I should have gotten from getting all of the medals from the action stages. And that isn't even the worst of it. No, that goes to the motherfucking Chow Garden. What's the Chow Garden? I'll tell you what it is. It's a fucking time sink. That is also mandatory if you wish to complete the game. You know how I said I got 128 of the emblems? And not the last 2? Yeah, that's because I cheated. I know it isn't right, but fuck if I was gonna put up with the waste of time that is the Chow Garden. Chow are essentially these little fairy creatures that sing and need to be fed animals and shit to become super fast, strong, etc. And raising these little fucks is mandatory to get several medals needed to complete the game. The issue with this is that raising Chow takes literally 3 to 5 real-time hours to actually do, and leaves you grinding, yes, you heard me right, grinding in a Sonic game. You will redo levels over and over just to get animals to feed your Chow to level up their stats, and repeat the whole process over until it's 11 p.m. at night and your mom is yelling at you to get out of the fucking basement, you fucking loser. Just get a real pet. Like me. Bark, 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 bark. Aw, isn't she adorable? Unlike those blue-bellied fucks. Seriously, fuck the Chows. They're the absolute worst part of this game, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm glad Tikal's father wiped these fuckers out. On that note, I have to say, completing this game is not worth your time and energy. While Metal Sonic is cool, the amount of stress that I had enduring the journey to getting him was enough to turn me to cheating just to get the last 2 Chow medals out of the way. And a completion bonus should never do that to a player. Oh, and before I forget, I need to talk about upgrades, though they're kind of less important here than in Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic gets the Light Speed Shoes, which allows for him to do the Light Speed Dash. Essentially, you can follow a trail of rings in a straight line. The Crystal Ring, it's more like a bracelet, allows for Sonic to charge the dash faster, and the Ancient Light allows you to perform the Light Speed Dash attack. It's alright, but you don't wind up using Light Speed Dash that much in this game, with only a few occurrences in some levels. Tails gets the Jet Anklet and the Rhythm Badge, the former allowing Tails to fly faster, and the latter giving him this awesome constant tail spinning attack, which is kind of fucking hilarious to do. Even better if you get Tails on something vertical or on the inside of a cave. Knuckles gets the Shovel Claw, which allows him to dig under dirt to find shards or rings, and gets the garish yellow fighting gloves, which allows him to use the maximum heat knuckles attack, which I only use to completely destroy Chaos 6. Amy gets both the warrior feather and the long hammer from playing this honestly charming mole-whacking game in the egg carrier. The feather allows you to perform the spinning attack, which honestly serves no purpose whatsoever, and the long hammer allowing you to hit things in a greater radius. Big gets the power rod and the life belt, which are supposed to make catching Froggy easier, but again, fuck Big, so I'm not even gonna bother here. Finally, Gamma gets both the jet booster and the laser blaster, allowing him to hover longer distances and shoot with better firing power. At least, I think so for the latter one. I find the upgrades to be mostly useless, as they're more like one-and-done sort of things for the most part. I mean, at least cosmetically they look cool, but that's about it. Oh, and I almost fucking forgot. Fuck the Tikal segments. You get randomly warped into the past in this game, and you get sent to this area with no map and sometimes with no idea where to go. During my run to review this game, I lost myself with Amy for about 10 minutes before realizing that I could take this path that looks like a closed door to where I was supposed to go. That's not good design, that's just fucking annoying. In the end, I have to say that the gameplay is probably the worst aspect of the game. From the terrible camera to how 1/3 of the game is complete garbage, and it just doesn't live up to today's standards. It's a sad truth. Sonic Adventure has not aged well in the gameplay department, because I could see many underlying ideas that I think would be better fleshed out in the sequel, specifically when involving Sonic's levels. Big, on the other hand, should have never been included in this game. Why the creators thought of putting him here is a fucking answer we will never receive. But nonetheless, his inclusion fucks this game up big time. So, we finally made it here, to the acting segment. Jesus Christ, as much as I love the cheesiness of these games, there is nothing excusing the bad voiceover work done for Sonic Adventure. I'll admit, I understand the limitations of the time, but these performances, man, I mean, they're so bad to the point of mimetic popularity. It doesn't help that most of the time, the voices don't even sync to the lip movements, resulting in some really janky cutscenes. I honestly feel bad for the actors who are part of the development in this game, as your lines will be mocked until the end of time. Or until the Sonic franchise dies and everyone forgets about it. Anyway, here are a few of my favorites.
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
Transform! So, it's up to us to get the emeralds before Eggman does, huh?
Bugs. Chaos! These are for you, my friend! Adieu! Until we meet again, my friends! Come back here! What's wrong with you? Don't run away! What you doing under that car? What's wrong? Froggy? Uh-oh. No! Hold on there! Come back, please! Give me my friend back! I'm begging you, please! Smells like Froggy's around somewhere. Whoa!
Yikes! The time has come at last. Sonic! Sonic! Hey, this ship is losing altitude!
Get a load of this!
You saved the day! You're the best!
I did it all by myself!
Chaos! Ah! He's not gonna get away with this!
Did you hear what I said? Oh, it's a monster! No!
Good thing you're okay.
Go, Sonic! Yeah, Sonic!
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 All's well that ends well, right?
Oh no!
video I said that the music was badass? Well, you have this man here to thank. June Snow, you musical god, you. This man has made so many badass tracks for the Sonic franchise, especially during the Adventure series. I just can't help but love them. From the heavy rock of Final Egg, to the weird but flashy music of Speed Highway. I love it all. My favorite tracks, though, have to be the character themes in that oh-so-memorable theme song, Open Your Heart. Crush 40 will never not be the best composers of Sonic the Hedgehog themes, if the Adventure series and the upcoming Team Sonic Racing is anything to go by. Sonic Adventure is still kind of a mystery to me. While I don't entirely like it, and despite the fact that my initial completion of the game was filled with many annoyances and hardships, I can't say that it's a terrible game. It's one of those classics that many people have fallen for, and while I may not have nostalgic value for it, I can definitely see why people would. It truly is a very endearing game. In the end, during a time where modern Sonic games are constantly decreasing in quality and less care is being put into the franchise by Sonic Team, I feel that a game like Sonic Adventure needs to be made again. If not to spark new life into the franchise, to remind it of something it could be, maybe even enhancing the formula to make it better than it was. I'm sure in time we will see, but for now, I give Sonic Adventure a rating of silver. It's not the best game, but it's not the worst game. Sonic Adventure DX, as I write the script, costs $1.19, though it usually costs $7.99. Even then, that's not asking much. You can do much worse with your money.
So, that about wraps up the Sonic Adventure DX review. Next time, I'll be doing Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for Steam. So remember, keep your hearts open, and I'll see you next time.
Your heart, it's gonna be alright.